He forever changed the way we experience movies. But behind the galaxy far, far away, there were real-world clashes, especially with some of the actors who brought his vision to life. This isn't just gossip. It's a fascinating look at creative tension, ego, and collaboration at the heart of one of Hollywood's biggest franchises. Let's dive in. The man behind the galaxy, George Lucas, isn't just some director. He's the mastermind who created a whole galaxy far, far away that millions of fans live in. Born in 1944, Lucas was a kid obsessed with cars, adventure stories, and classic movies. Sure, American Graffiti was his first big hit, but it was Star Wars that blasted him into Hollywood legend. But behind all that success was a guy whose perfectionism and tech obsession sometimes made working with him complicated. Lucas was all about pushing the limits, pioneering new special effects, sound design, and even figuring out how movies get distributed. But here's the catch. His focus was mostly on the big picture and the technology, not so much on the actors themselves. He wasn't your typical actor's director who coaches performances with patience and nuance. Instead, he was laser-focused on making his vision come to life exactly as he imagined it. Running a massive sci-fi saga like Star Wars meant Lucas had to be in control, from detailed storyboards to precise technical execution. There wasn't a lot of room for actors to improvise or stray from the script. For some, this worked just fine. For others, it felt a bit cold and restrictive. What happens when a visionary's obsession with control collides with the egos, emotions, and expectations of the actors bringing his world to life? This mix of visionary drive and tight control led to some interesting, and sometimes tense, relationships with the actors. The story behind the scenes isn't just about special effects and blockbuster success. It's about creative clashes and personalities trying to find their place in a galaxy-sized project. And that's exactly what we're going to explore. Number 1, David Prowse. The man inside Darth Vader's mask. When people think of Darth Vader, they often picture the iconic black helmet, the chilling mechanical breathing, and that towering, almost unstoppable presence on screen. But the man who physically embodied that dark force? That was David Prowse, a former bodybuilder and weightlifter turned actor who brought Vader's intimidating physicality to life. Yet, despite his massive contribution to one of cinema's most legendary villains, Prowse's relationship with George Lucas was anything but smooth. David Prowse was a giant of a man, standing over 6 feet tall with a powerful build honed from years of weightlifting and bodybuilding. When Lucas and the filmmakers were casting Darth Vader, they needed someone who could physically dominate a scene without needing to rely on dialogue or facial expressions. Prowse fit the bill perfectly. His imposing frame and deliberate movements gave Vader that unforgettable silhouette, one that struck fear into audiences long before Vader spoke a single word. But here's where the story takes a complicated turn. While Prowse provided Vader's physical presence, his voice was never used. Instead, Lucas chose James Earl Jones to deliver Vader's iconic, deep, commanding voice. This decision, while understandable from a directorial standpoint, created a strange and lasting tension. For Prowse, the voice is a huge part of an actor's connection to their character, and to be physically present but vocally replaced made him feel invisible in a crucial way. This split between body and voice led to more than just hurt feelings. It sparked a sense of frustration and exclusion. Prowse wasn't just sidelined on screen, he felt sidelined off it too. The man who literally donned the armor and helmet was never fully recognized as Darth Vader by the franchise or its fans. Instead, Vader became a composite. Prowse's body, Jones's voice, and at times a stuntman's movements. As filming continued, Prowse began to feel the sting of these creative decisions. Reports suggest that Lucas and the production team didn't always communicate clearly with him, leading to confusion and disappointment. Prowse claimed that he wasn't told about the voice dubbing until after filming was complete. Moreover, Prowse's attempts to protect the secrecy of major plot points, like Vader being Luke Skywalker's father, put him at odds with Lucas's team when he shared spoilers, whether intentionally or by accident. The fallout from this strained relationship was long-lasting. In 2010, Lucasfilm reportedly banned Prowse from participating in official Star Wars fan events, a move widely believed to stem from their rocky history. For someone who gave so much to the character, this must have been deeply painful. Fans who cheered for Vader's presence might not have known the behind-the-scenes story, that the man in the mask felt shut out and underappreciated. Still, David Prowse embraced his unique legacy. Over decades, he appeared at countless fan conventions, signing autographs and sharing stories from the set. He maintained a good rapport with fans, often delighting in their love for the character he helped shape. Prowse even released his autobiography, detailing his experiences and shedding light on the complex relationship with the Star Wars universe. What does Prowse's story reveal about George Lucas? It's a clear example of how Lucas's perfectionist drive sometimes created emotional distance. His focus was often on the end result, the perfect shot, the flawless effect, which occasionally came at the cost of nurturing the actors who gave flesh to his vision. Lucas's directing style wasn't always warm or collaborative, and in Prowse's case, it led to a lasting rift. Yet, in a way, the story of Prowse and Vader encapsulates the paradox of filmmaking. A character can become legendary, even iconic, but the people behind the mask can be overlooked, misunderstood, or conflicted. The legacy is bigger than any one individual, but the individual stories add layers of depth and humanity. David Prowse's journey reminds us that even in the world of epic space operas and blockbuster films, there are very real human emotions, pride, disappointment, and resilience that shape the legacy behind the scenes. It's a testament to his dedication that despite the ups and downs, he remains an inseparable part of what makes Darth Vader so unforgettable. Next on the list, what happens when a classically trained, Oscar-winning actor finds himself in a galaxy filled with robots, space battles, and dialogue that barely makes sense to him? Number 2. Alec Guinness. Obi-Wan Kenobi's complex legacy. Alec Guinness wasn't just any actor. He was a titan of the British stage and screen long before he ever picked up a lightsaber. Known for his Shakespearean chops and a career full of critically acclaimed roles, Guinness brought a weight and gravitas to Obi-Wan Kenobi that helped anchor the original Star Wars trilogy. But beneath his calm and composed exterior was a man who was often quietly unhappy with his involvement in the galaxy far, far away. When George Lucas cast Guinness as Obi-Wan, he was tapping into a well-respected actor with decades of experience. At the time, Star Wars was an ambitious project with uncertain prospects, and Guinness himself was initially skeptical of the film's sci-fi premise. Still, he accepted the role, and his performance became one of the defining elements of the original trilogy. However, Guinness's relationship with Lucas and the project was complicated from the start. He reportedly found much of the dialogue awkward, even laughable, calling some of it mumbo-jumbo. Lucas's scriptwriting style, with its space jargon and sometimes stilted lines, clashed with Guinness's classical acting background, which prized nuance and elegance in language. Guinness's dissatisfaction went beyond the dialogue. He was reportedly frustrated with the direction he was given, feeling that Lucas, especially in those early years, was more focused on the film's technical innovations and spectacle than on performances. For an actor of Guinness's caliber, this created tension. He once said in an interview that working on Star Wars was like making a big, expensive home movie, a statement that highlighted his ambivalence. Interestingly, Guinness didn't want to be tied to the franchise for long. According to accounts, he proposed that his character be killed off early in the saga to avoid the prolonged commitment and to escape the growing fame that came with the role. And indeed, Obi-Wan's death in A New Hope was a dramatic turning point. It marked Guinness's exit from the films while cementing the character's legendary status. But the fame that followed wasn't easy for Guinness to handle. He was reportedly uncomfortable with the cult status that Star Wars bestowed upon him. The attention was intense and persistent, and Guinness found it somewhat alienating compared to his previous, more serious roles. While fans adored him, Guinness felt typecast and confined by the label of Star Wars actor. Despite these reservations, Guinness's performance remains iconic. His calm wisdom, dignified presence, and understated strength gave Obi-Wan a timeless quality. His portrayal laid the foundation for all future Jedi characters and remains beloved by fans around the world. From a behind-the-scenes perspective, Guinness's story highlights the creative tensions that can arise when a classically trained actor meets a visionary director with a very different approach. Lucas's emphasis on storytelling through spectacle and technological innovation sometimes left actors feeling like cogs in a vast machine rather than collaborators. In later years, Guinness softened his stance somewhat, recognizing the cultural impact of Star Wars and the joy it brought to fans. But his initial reservations and creative frustrations remind us that even the most talented actors can struggle to adapt to the demands of blockbuster filmmaking, especially when their artistic expectations clash with the realities of a genre-defining spectacle. Ultimately, Alec Guinness's experience with Star Wars offers a fascinating glimpse into the balance between art and entertainment, tradition and innovation. His complex legacy is part of what makes the original trilogy so rich, a fusion of classical acting talent and groundbreaking cinematic ambition. Number 3. Terence Stamp. A brief, critical encounter. Terence Stamp is one of those actors whose name commands respect. An icon of British cinema, known for his intense performances and sharp wit. So, when he appeared in Star Wars, Episode I, The Phantom Menace as Chancellor Valorum, expectations were high. But Stamp's experience working with George Lucas was, to put it mildly, underwhelming. Unlike the original trilogy, which was mostly practical effects and actors working closely together, the prequel era brought a much heavier reliance on CGI and digital effects. For an actor like Stamp, who thrived on interaction and organic performance, this created a disconnect. His role as Chancellor Valorum was relatively small but crucial, representing the waning political power before Palpatine's rise. Yet, Stamp quickly grew frustrated with the process. He was blunt in his assessment of Lucas's directing style, famously calling Lucas not a director of actors. For Stamp, Lucas didn't provide the kind of guidance and creative collaboration actors often need to deliver their best performances. Instead, Lucas was more focused on the technical and visual aspects of the film, leaving actors feeling somewhat adrift. Stamp described the experience as boring and disappointing, emphasizing that the environment was far from the dynamic, actor-driven sets he was used to. With much of the film relying on green screens and digital environments, the emotional and physical connection between actors was limited. This kind of filmmaking demanded a different kind of patience and imagination, qualities that not every actor enjoys in equal measure. His critique wasn't just about Lucas's direction but also about the broader creative choices. Stamp was outspoken about the script and dialogue, which many fans and critics also found lacking in depth compared to the original trilogy. For an actor known for roles in classic films like The Collector and Superman, Stamp's disappointment was rooted in a longing for more meaningful storytelling and character development. Despite the brevity of his role, Stamp's candid reflections on his time with Lucas reveal a deeper truth about the challenges of working on large-scale, effects-driven blockbusters. The demands of such productions often clash with the traditional craft of acting, leaving some performers frustrated by the lack of personal creative input. Stamp's comments add to the narrative that Lucas's approach to filmmaking was heavily visionary and technical, but sometimes at the expense of actor engagement. While the director's priorities brought revolutionary visuals and epic scope, they could make the actor's experience feel secondary. Ultimately, Terence Stamp's experience is a reminder that even celebrated actors aren't immune to creative clashes, especially when the director's focus and style don't align with their own working methods. It's a small but telling episode in the ongoing story of George Lucas and his complex relationships with the actors who brought his world to life. Not all of Lucas's most pivotal clashes happened in front of the camera. Some of the deepest creative divides took place behind it. This time, it's one of the producers on set. Number 4. Gary Kurtz. The producer's rift. When you think about the magic of the original Star Wars trilogy, it's easy to focus on George Lucas as the visionary genius. But behind the scenes, there was another key player whose influence shaped the films: Gary Kurtz, the producer who worked closely with Lucas on Star Wars, 1977, and The Empire Strikes Back, 1980. Their partnership was vital to bringing the galaxy far, far away to life, but it wasn't without its tensions and creative disagreements. Gary Kurtz was a seasoned producer with a clear vision of what Star Wars could be. A story that balanced character-driven drama with groundbreaking effects. He was more cautious than Lucas when it came to merchandising and the commercial aspects, preferring to keep the storytelling at the core rather than turning the franchise into a marketing machine. This difference in priorities would eventually create a serious rift between the two. During the making of The Empire Strikes Back, their collaboration began to fray. Lucas was increasingly interested in expanding the franchise's commercial potential, toys, merchandise, spin-offs, while Kurtz worried this focus could dilute the storytelling. Kurtz favored a grittier, more grounded approach, emphasizing emotional complexity and thematic depth. Lucas, meanwhile, was charting a path toward a blockbuster empire, willing to prioritize spectacle and broad appeal. This clash came to a head after The Empire Strikes Back, when Kurtz was not brought back as producer for Return of the Jedi. It was a clear sign that Lucas was moving in a different direction, one that left Kurtz's more reserved sensibilities behind. The two men parted ways, with Kurtz quietly stepping back from the franchise. Kurtz later reflected on his experience, expressing disappointment in how the series evolved, particularly Lucas's growing focus on merchandising and spectacle over storytelling. He believed the original film's heart and soul were rooted in strong characters and meaningful arcs, something he feared was being lost in the drive for commercial success. Their split highlights an important aspect of Lucas's career: his evolution from filmmaker to franchise mogul. While Lucas's vision created an unprecedented cultural phenomenon, it also revealed tensions between creative purity and commercial ambition. Kurtz's story reminds us that even in the midst of groundbreaking success, creative partnerships can fracture under the weight of differing philosophies. Interestingly, Kurtz continued to produce and direct other projects but remained somewhat in the shadow of the Star Wars empire. His quieter approach contrasts sharply with Lucas's public profile, but his contributions to the first two films were crucial. His balance of storytelling and production expertise helped turn Lucas's ideas into cinematic reality. In retrospect, the Kurtz-Lucas split serves as a cautionary tale about the costs of creative control and the pressures of blockbuster filmmaking. It's a reminder that even the most successful collaborations can falter when visions diverge. Number 5. Anthony Daniels. C-3PO's patience tested. If there's one actor who truly embodies perseverance in the Star Wars universe, it's Anthony Daniels. As the man behind the gold-plated protocol droid C-3PO, Daniels is the only actor to have appeared in every single main saga film, a testament not only to his dedication but also to his complex, sometimes fraught relationship with George Lucas. Daniels' journey with Star Wars began when he auditioned for what he thought was a small role. Little did he know he'd be locked inside a metal suit for hours on end, navigating a galaxy filled with strange creatures and intense fan devotion. From the start, Daniels brought a certain warmth and humanity to C-3PO, turning what could have been a robotic, forgettable character into a fan favorite. But working with Lucas wasn't always smooth sailing. Daniels has often spoken candidly about how Lucas's intense focus on technology and effects sometimes overshadowed the actors. While Lucas was pushing the boundaries of special effects and storytelling innovation, actors like Daniels sometimes felt like secondary players, constrained by heavy costumes and limited direction. Daniels recalled long days on set, stuck inside a cumbersome suit that limited his movement and visibility. There were moments when he felt more like a prop than a performer, and the lack of actor-focused direction could be frustrating. Yet, Daniels' professionalism and good humor helped him endure these challenges, turning C-3PO's nervous energy into a beloved character trait. Interestingly, Daniels also developed a respectful but honest perspective on Lucas's leadership. He admired Lucas's vision and pioneering spirit but wasn't shy about pointing out the difficulties that came with it. For instance, he noted that Lucas was less hands-on with actors than many directors tend to be, which sometimes left actors to find their own way through scenes. Despite these challenges, Daniels' loyalty to the franchise and his character never wavered. His dedication helped anchor the films, providing continuity and comic relief throughout the saga's many twists and turns. Over time, Daniels became something of an ambassador for Star Wars, embracing the fandom with warmth and humor. His relationship with Lucas reflects the delicate balance between visionary direction and the actor's craft. Daniels' story shows that while Lucas's strengths were in innovation and big-picture storytelling, the actors often had to bring their own creativity and patience to the table to fill in the gaps. In many ways, Daniels' journey is a story of resilience, of finding ways to shine despite limitations and forging a path through a fast-moving, technology-driven filmmaking process. His unique perspective adds a valuable layer to understanding how Lucas's approach shaped the Star Wars legacy, for better and sometimes for worse. Some relationships started with respect but slowly unraveled under the weight of fame, pressure, and creative friction. None more famously than George Lucas and Harrison Ford. Number 6. Harrison Ford. The reluctant star and the complicated collaboration. People think of Star Wars and Han Solo immediately comes to mind. The charming rogue, the quick-witted smuggler who stole scenes and hearts alike. And behind that swaggering smile was Harrison Ford, the actor who turned Han Solo into one of the most beloved characters in cinematic history. But as iconic as Ford's role became, his relationship with George Lucas was surprisingly complicated and sometimes tense. Before Star Wars, Harrison Ford was a working actor with a string of small roles, doing carpentry on the side to make ends meet. It was during the filming of American Graffiti, Lucas's earlier coming-of-age hit, that Ford first met Lucas, and the director later tapped him to read lines during Star Wars editions. Though Ford wasn't originally cast as Han Solo, Lucas's decision to bring him on was a turning point. Ford's portrayal of Han Solo was a revelation. He brought charisma, humor, and a grounded realism that made Solo feel like a fully fleshed-out character amid the epic space fantasy. But behind the scenes, Ford's experience was not without friction. He often found Lucas's directing style frustrating, describing it as somewhat detached and overly focused on the technical side rather than actors' performances. Lucas was famously focused on the broader vision, the